Mr. Ego Akrea is our guest, is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Mr. Akrea, good to see you and good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, absolutely, Geoffrey, Bukola and Kelly. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before I drag you onto the papers, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Paul Biya. He's been president since I was 2 years old. I'm in my mid-40s.
I mean, well, yeah, I mean, this is just what goes on in Africa. Paul Biya, as you said, yes, I was quite young. I'm over 60 now, and I was in early secondary school when I started hearing about Paul Biya as president of Cameroon. And for every election cycle, I think they've done about 7 elections now. And I keep winning all the elections. All right, that's a francophone country. It's our neighbor right on the east coast, just by Akwa Ibom and Cross River State. You know, it's really, each time I remember the story of Cameroon and the kind of democracy that is practiced in Cameroon, I just wonder. And of course, you should also not forget that because of the absence of inclusive and participatory democracy that is supposed to be transparent, that is supposed to involve every region, you know, of Cameroon, the southern part of Cameroon, which is the Anglophone-speaking part of Cameroon, they speak English there, while the northern part, they speak mostly French. They've opted to break away from Cameroon. I think that is just a mark of frustration. But overall, it's time for Paul Biya, to quit the stage. He's done quite well so far. There's some measure of stability in the country, but there's no development in Cameroon. Nobody can account for the huge oil and gas resources that country produces. It's basically a very poor country, you know. So it's really unfortunate that he hangs on there. Once elections are over, I don't even want to call this election. Once the cycle of selecting a president is over, in which case he always emerges, he returns to Sweden. I understand he's been living in Sweden all his life. So that is where we are in Africa. Zimbabwe was the closest to what Cameroon is doing now with Robert Mugabe. You know, Robert Mugabe was a very interesting character to me with his great African proverbs, and that tends to create a lot of hilarious, you know, for everyone who listens to him speak. You know, he engaged the British. He does not like the Western-style democracy and all of that. Well, that's where we are, as I said earlier. It's unfortunate that Cameroon is caught in this this trap that appears to be an unending sound. It's not going to end so soon. Maybe the man wants to die on the throne, but if he does that, that would be very tragic. The story of Cameroon is not a good example of democracy.
All right, I needed your thoughts on that. Let's go to this Nigeria, the first paper I'll be looking at. 2 stories I want you to binge on. CBN keeps interest rate at 26.5% amid global tensions. MPC ignores easing inflation, keeps tight policy over Middle East tensions. Cardoso says reform strengthen economy once external shocks remain potent. And then the one beneath, which is at page 16, read, Africa tops global hunger rankings as UN sounds warning. So despite, you know, when the interest rate was, no, the CPI, the inflation numbers were literally jumping, the interest rate kept accelerating. Now we are in the region of 15%. Interest rates, the CBN doesn't trust, or I don't know whether it doesn't trust the numbers, because you look at interest rate and employment numbers to be able to respond as a monetary authority. What do you make of it?
Well, I don't expect the CBN to do anything different. It's keeping the interest rate at 26.5%. It's high. You know, we are still talking about double-digit interest rate, which of course is affecting investment, it's affecting production, it's also affecting even the cost of living, as it were, borrowings. How can we grow the SMEs, MSMEs, when the interest rate is that high? So you go to the banks and then you try to get a loan for any kind of investment, and you look at the current interest rate, it's extremely very high. It's one of the highest in the world. But again, if you look at the value of the naira to the dollar at the moment, there's very little the CBN can do. And I think that it is just to keep the economy a bit stable by stabilizing the interest rate at that level. I think this is about the second or third time that interest rate has been maintained by the CBN. For me, that is, there's no way the CBN can drive the interest rate low at this point because we are not really producing in this country. Basically, we are importing all of what we need, apart from oil and gas that the country exports that is bringing in forex. And with the crisis in the Middle East, the war between the United States and Iran over control of the choke point, the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran and Oman actually owns. They jointly own that important strait, which controls about 25% of global trade, that transits through that strait. So that's why we are not producing anything, as I said earlier, and there's no way. It's maintaining the interest rate at that level is just a form of trying to keep everything stable for now, while the CBN observes other economic indices at the macro level. I should also add, interestingly, just last week, I guess, Cardoso was in the UK, where he was honored as with an award of the Central Bank of the Year governor. So it means that he's doing well if you look at that global recognition that came to him. So overall, with unified regime of the currency that we have, which of course still keeps the exchange rate at over 1,000, hovering now between 1,350 and 1,450, depending on where you are exchanging. So, well, we wait and see, but I think it is impacting on our capacity to grow the informal sector, because the informal sector will rely on borrowings and loans from banks, which the repayment method or the repayment funds is high. It's not easy for struggling Nigerians who are trying to cope with other contending factors like electricity, infrastructure, and all of that, and then you have to pay that kind of money as interest for loans collected. So as I said, that is impacting on our capacity to develop the informal sector.
Well, you touched on the relationship between activities in the banking sector and the petroleum sector. Speaking of which, The Guardian captures some of our thoughts this morning on the winners of NUPRC's 2025 licensing bid. And let me go over the comprehensive captions from The Guardian, front page of The Guardian. 4 years after 1 billion barrels frontier basin's discovery, FG shops for investors as NNPC's $3 billion North Oil exploration lags. So it looks like a mixed bag, but what are your thoughts on the NUPRC's licensing bid, for which winners have emerged? And after all, the discovery of oil in some parts of the south, in some parts of the north, where are we, Mr. Akiria?
The story of oil discovery in Nigeria that started in 1958 in Oloibiri, present-day Bayelsa State, is very interesting. It strikes a lot of interest because, one, if you look at it, over time, that is well over 60 years now, we particularly in the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, I learned, we were relished with the reports that oil had been discovered somewhere in Bauchi State, and of course in other parts of the north. Billions of naira were invested in trying to grow the discoveries of those oil wells to commercial capacity, but nothing was heard about them. So for me, well, this is good news, but as somebody from the Niger Delta, I am not happy, because we want to see transparency in these bidding rounds. Who are those that have won these bids? There were about 50 or so, 50 or thereabout, and then 30 is up now. 30 has been bidded for and they won. We want to see those who won these fresh rounds of bids for the oil wells. How many Niger Delta people are there? I read a report this morning where PANDEF is actually complaining, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum is complaining bitterly that Niger Deltans, on whose backyard, on whose soil a lot of these oil and gas resources are found, are usually shut out from these bidding rounds. So we have the big players from other parts of the country usually winning these rounds. As somebody from the region, I think that is not good. I think that was what also led to the agitations by men, movement for the emancipation of Niger Delta. Though basically that struggle was about, environmental pollution and economic inequilibrium. The complaint at the time was that Niger Deltans are being shortchanged. But with the 13% derivation also going to governors in the region, there is also a growing call for greater accountability and transparency in how the 13% derivation from oil is also spent by leaders in the region. So whilst we try to ask for more, there is also a need to ask for internal scrutiny and transparency and accountability in what we're getting. But basically, I think that, in my view, those who won these bid rounds, we want to see them, the companies, the individuals behind them, and see whether it reflects the growing demand by Niger Deltans to have a bite on the national cake.
Mr. Kereha, well, we'll stay with the issue of accountability and transparency, but this time we'll switch gears to the Nigerian Tribune. It leads with that story that doesn't seem to go away. A PFIPC scandal. ONSA SGF disowned Adeyemi during 2025 inquiry, Foreign Affairs Ministry. Well, that's the Office of the National Security Advisor and that of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The Foreign Affairs Ministry says both offices disowned Adeyemi during the 2025 inquiry. Reps to meet Minister of Justice, Accountant General today. So, well, since both offices have denied Adeyemi or disowned Adeyemi, as the Foreign Affairs Ministry have said, I'm just wondering, so who exactly is behind Adeyemi?
This report broke yesterday when the House of Reps invited the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and other key individuals involved in answering questions about the ongoing investigation by the House of Reps Committee on probing the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, run by this gentleman now who is appearing to be, well, I don't want to, the matter is being investigated, and I hope at some point it will go to court. If it is proven that indeed he was acting alone, then he should get an award as the greatest conman of the century. I mean, for anybody to pull this off, across agencies, key agencies of government, at the highest level of bureaucracy and government in Nigeria, that is not only an embarrassment, but it simply shows how weak our institutions have become. But I must also commend the Foreign Affairs Ministry, for blowing the whistle on him. If not for the diligence and, the capacity of, senior officials at the Foreign Affairs Ministry to properly scrutinize, correspondences between them, between the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the PFI, FPC, then of course maybe this would have continued, and eventually the 1.3 billion naira that has already gone through the budget, that was already approved by the National Assembly and assented to by the President, and eventually the money would have gotten into the pocket of Prince Matthew Adeyemi. I read the report, and apart from the fact that the Office of the National Security Advisor is, at a point last year, 2025, actually declared that this body is illegal. And I think that is what the committee of the House of Reps is trying to find out now. The ONSA office wrote back to the Foreign Affairs Ministry that that agency is illegal. So what did no riba to do. What then happened? If at that level of government, that is the National Security Advisor's Office, you are able to find that a key agency of government is illegal. At that point, I would have thought that the answer office would have moved in to arrest even Prince Adeyemi before what has happened. So I see a whole lot of lapses here and there. The office of the chief of staff also wrote to in a reply to the Foreign Affairs Ministry denying the existence of that agency. So why did all of them keep quiet when they realized that that agency was fraudulently set up? It was not supposed to exist in the first place. But yet, it ran up until this year, put in for budget allocation. The budget was approved, and the office was given, and all of that. So there's a whole lot. By now, I expect some heads to be rolling, even before the investigation is concluded, for even the lapses itself, which, of course, has presented a whole lot of embarrassment to the image of Nigeria within and outside of the country. It's so unfortunate.
Yeah, Mr. Zakaria, this scandal is what we're watching closely. For some of us, we're watching to see that this is not the only guy that will take the fall, because it's too sophisticated for one person to be able to pull off. I think it would be poor work on the side of the ICPC from Nigerians to see if this is the only guy that is responsible for this act. Then I don't think the ICPC would have done a great job. Then the first place, what will even come out of it? But at least let's see the people that are part of this whole mess that has embarrassed this government. Mr. Zakaria, thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, we have a lineup of conversations for you on the program. First up, there's a lot going on as far as this investigation is concerned by the ICPC. We have loads of asset forfeiture that we've also experienced lately by the courts, forfeiting some of the property of people that are politically exposed, as well as this craze for building judges' houses. Yes, on Wike is at the vanguard of it. He started it in Rivers, he took it to Abuja. We understand 25 billion is being earmarked by the Imo State government as well. And I think Akwa Ibom State is also building judges' quarters. Why are governors loving to build judges' quarters? All of this is part of the conversation. I will also have one of the persons who contested in the election of the NBA later on in the program, plus the state of the economy. Stay with us, we'll be right back.